welcome back to the channel. Today working on the TVR, and we have a slight issue with the passenger mirror. It's not supposed to be like this. And at first I thought, well, these mirrors have an adjustment grub screw at the base of them, but when I grab the mirror and lift, it comes completely off and just hangs down the door. And this aluminium part, or well, I think it's actually monkey metal, looks to be broken. Right, so it's quite floppy. I've taken the mirror glass off. There's a little tab under the bottom here that you push to one side with like a little tiny screwdriver, and the glass falls out in your hand. There are some leads for it as well, because the glass is heated on mine. But this kind of movement is not normal, and if you lift it off, the normal thing that fails on these is there's a collar at the bottom with a little grub screw in to tighten the movement this way, and the other thing that usually fails is this little aluminium, well, I don't know what you would call it. It's like a cone of monkey metal, but that's still okay. Normally it's broken off here. These little tripod-y things are the ones that break when a car hits it or something while it's parked up. But this has got a piece of metal still on the top with a rubber washer under it, and that metal, if I take off the cover, which I've already done, you can see there where it's broken off. So that is part of the internal structure of the actual mirror, which makes this much more difficult to fix. So my plan, such as it is to, I'm going to have to back the car out and move it further across so I can get the door card off to get access to the bolt that holds all this gubbins in. And the plan is to make a metal piece out of real metal that spans this, and I'm either going to fasten these two together somehow with, I don't know, pop rivets or something, or even remake this piece, and then I might have to drill a hole and put a bolt on the top for the bolt that comes through the car to hold the mirror on. There's plenty of room in here, so I'm hoping that I can jury rig something to hold this back on, because these mirrors are, like, you know, very, very difficult to get hold of now. They're originally off a Citroen BX, I think, long time ago, and famously were also on McLaren F1s, Jaguar XJ220s, lots of weird cars, but really difficult to get hold of, quite expensive, and plus you then paint. I'm going to have to paint this anyway because whoever painted it last time hasn't done a very good job of it. But the first job is to actually get it physically attached to the car again. So I'll move the car across and then we'll start getting the door card off. Right, so I've moved the car. The first thing we need to do is get this door card off. I have done this before. It involves taking the speaker out, which gives you an access hole through which, with I think it's a 10mm, but I'll confirm that when we get there, a 10mm spanner, best a ratchet spanner, to take off this leather piece. There are some screws. Bolts, let me get it right. There are some bolts on which inside there are washers and nuts which hold this on. So we need to, I think there's about 4 of them, we have to take those off, and then this whole thing lifts up and away off the door. So I'll get a screwdriver and we'll get the speaker out first. Well, there appears to be 4 bolts. There's one about here. I'll put a photo up and show you where they are. There's one here, one here, one here I think, and one a bit further back. They're all at the bottom because the top's held on by like a rail that this hooks over. So once all the bolts are out, that just lifts up and away. Now what I've had to do is I've had to put my head in the passenger footwell and with my left arm bend it right back on itself. There is a bit of pushing to do. You need your arm as high up here as you can to kind of get around the corner of the speaker. So don't push it in and push it down, you'll never get your elbow in. So go in and try and grab hold of sort of the ashtray in that area, get your elbow in, have the spanner in there with you, and then you'll have to work your way. You can feel them quite easily, but then you've got to take these 4 bolts off, which is a bit of a challenge. Another brilliant TVR design. They obviously never thought people would be doing this. So I'm going to get a ratchet spanner, and I can quite easily get to this first one, so we'll size it on that one, and that'll be the challenge of being upside down, arm back to front, taking the other 3 off. And then we've got the joy of putting it back on again. Right, let there be light. So front one's loose, and if I can pull this, there's one there, look, one here, one just in front of the pocket behind where this hump is here, that I'm behind this bit, and then one right at the front. So now in theory all I need to do is lift this up. So I'm going to have to use 2 ends. I'll wiggle this off and then I'll start filming again. Right, it won't come off, and then I remembered right at the end that if you pull the ashtray out, there's a sneaky little Phillips in there, look, can you see it? So we have to unscrew that as well. And the fiberglass leather covered bit lifts off. So all you're left with is the lovely carpet, which looks disgusting at the minute. So I've got carpet, and we'll lift that off, and then we'll be able to get inside the door. Wowee, TVR and the hidden screws. Right, holding the carpet on, I found there's a hidden screw here, there's my finger there, one at the L-shaped cut there, one about halfway along here, and then one at the end, which I've not taken out because it's just going round and round and round and round, and I'll use that as a locator for putting it back on. And in theory, said that before, this now lifts off. Right, so I felt up in the hole. Unfortunately you can't actually physically see it, you do get access through the hole, so you could argue that I probably didn't need to take the cover off. Well, obviously I didn't know that when I started. So what it feels like inside is, it feels like there's a big thread cast into the fiberglass with the cables for everything on the wing mirror coming through the middle of it. And if you look on the outside, I hope you can see that in the middle of this thing here there's like a little slotted nut of some kind, and I suspect that that is what holds on this. I've got a new one of these, I'll show you it. When you buy a TVR, everyone you meet will tell you to get some of these. In fact, I don't even know if they're available anymore. So this is the bit that holds the mirror on, and you can see at the bottom it's like empty, nothing in there. And what there is, there's a ring with an indent in it, and them 2 bits fit in the indent, so you can hook it over, and then what holds it in place is a grub screw, and that's like the 3rd leg of the tripod. And the idea was you could undo that grub screw and then rotate this round. Good luck ever getting, look at where it is, good luck ever getting to that grub screw without drilling a hole in your car from the inside and then hoping you drilled it in the right place so you can get an Allen key in. So it's looking more and more like, because this is solid, it wasn't broken, that I should concentrate maybe on getting this off. Now there's a screwdriver fitting here that feels like a big Phillips screw or something, but I can replace that with a bolt that I can get a spanner on, and I'm going to try and get this metal piece off without damaging the rubber washer, and see if I can put a bolt up through there with some kind of spacer, and then put a plate on the mirror with a hole in, and then bolt it on the top. So that's my next plan. So believe it or not, just by levering this stuff, that's why they call it monkey metal, it's like Kit Kat wrapper, just by levering this up it's snapped off around the centre post. I've got the washer off, so I need to get this bit out now. It's on a rubber mounting, so somehow I've got to hold the bottom and twist the top and take it out here instead of using the Phillips thing. Otherwise we're back to the plan of trying to hammer round that slotted nut. and that fills me with dread. So I'll try and continue taking this out and then see how we go. Okay, so update time. I had originally thought about breaking off this tripod because I've got two new ones, and then that would give me a better chance of getting the slotted ring out. I'd even thought about getting an old socket. Once this is out of the way, you could grind the socket so it had like maybe 3 teeth on it that would fit in the slots. Yeah, that's a lot of work, you know, farting around. In the meantime, what I did was I got that out. So this is that piece. In the end, what I did was, it doesn't look like it's got a thread in it. I think it's just like a bushing. And let me see if I can find it. This is the Torx that was in that position going up, which you could never have got a Torx on anyway. And I drilled a hole down it, and then eventually it broke off. So my plan is to get another bolt, i.e. as in a nut and bolt, one that I can maybe get a spanner on from the side, use the original washer which is kind of still in there flapping about. There's a piece of rubber where my fingertip is, and then put a bolt all the way through, and then put a plate on the bit that's broken, pop rivet a plate of steel with a hole in it, and then nut and bolt all that together, and then put the cover back on. So it's search time now. I need to go find some likely looking nuts and bolts and see how I can get this to work. But it's a relief I don't have to take that off. Right, I've had a look through my assortment of nuts and washers and stuff like that. So I've got some spacer washers, I've got a nylon nut and a spring washer. I've got a plate of alley which I'm going to cut to repair the frame, and then in here I've got a bolt which goes up through the original spacer. I've cut the top off the spacer and cleaned it up, and that goes up through the original washer, up through the rubber thing, and there's enough thread there, including washers and the plate, for me to fasten that on nice and securely, I think. So now I've got to make a plate that covers this like the old one and then connects to the frame, which is here. So that's the next challenge, and then obviously get the hole in the right place. Right, I found this little bit of scrap alley, still even got the white protective plastic on. I've cut it down and I've made it so it fits in the frame. I just need to cut out these bits, and this round bit here is the bit that is missing, and that's the approximate position of the hole. I don't think I'll drill that just yet, so I'll cut that and then we'll offer it up and see how close I am. Then I'll have to drill into these bits and into the frame, and I'll probably either small nut and bolt or pop rivet them together. Maybe nut and bolt first, that's probably less destructive and at least reversible. Right, we've been having some play. The plate is cut roughly to shape, and I've been doing some practicing with the old rivet gun. So I've got 2 layers of alley to simulate the alley and the monkey metal, and I've put a 4.2mm hole and a 4mm rivet through it, and that's rock solid. They ain't ever coming apart without the help of a grinder. Now's the scary part. I've marked the back of the frame with some, you know, potential holes, and then I'll hold the plate to that and mark it, and then drill the holes in the plate, and then it's well, it's the time that I can't come back from. So I'll drill these, and then we'll get busy with the rivet gun, and then all we have to do is drill the hole and hope that this idea works. Right, I've got the plate riveted in. I just need to drill the hole. I've looked at it from above. What you have to watch out for is there's this bloody great spring underneath, which works on these indents on these teeth for like positioning the mirror. so I've got to kind of push against that to mark the hole, because I want the spring to be under tension. So I mean, it could be a bit of a battle getting it in the hole with that spring there, but I'm sure we'll do okay. So I've marked where I think it ought to be, and now I'm going to drill that hole. Right, I think we're ready to put it all together. The problem I've got is, if I put the collar over, I can't really get in there anymore, and I need to hold the bolt up, because there's no nut on the top to hold it. It'll just fall inside, and I'm going to have to get the nut on whilst that's on, and while that cover, well, while that lot is inside the cover. I can still see the bolt and probably get the nut on. It's a bit tight, and it'll be a, you know, half a turn to go with a normal spanner to do it up. But I have a plan. I've taken a rubber from an exhaust and cut some different size bits of rubber. The idea is that that rubber will hold up the bolt till I can get the nut on, and it doesn't really matter what happens to that, it's just trapped inside there. Right, bit of an update. I've fastened all the mirror covers together. That's one piece now, and now I need to get that sleeve over the tripod, and I've replaced the thread with a longer one. I've got a bit of threaded rod with a nylock nut bolted on at the bottom, and done it a little bit longer, because what I'd really like to fit is the original washer and a metal penny washer to kind of distribute the weight on the top, and then I've still got room to get a nut, or maybe even two nuts on there to lock it tight. I may struggle if that starts to spin at the bottom. I could be in trouble. I'm hoping it won't. We can only try it and see, and this gives me a bit more of a target to get through the hole that's on the plate in there, so I'm going to try it and hope for the best. Well, in the words from Max at Auto Top and L, holy moly. Right, so we've managed to get the nut and a washer on the thread, and the spring, which came off and then I had to rivet back on, is in approximately the right position, so it'll sort of hold against the indent, stop the mirror flapping about. Now I've just got to judge how tight to do that, and then get this round to the right position, put the glass, I'll put the glass on first and connect the heater wires, which are those two, and then I'll pull it round to the right position and then adjust it. But I'm hoping that's going to be it. That was an epic struggle, really not great to do, and if it hadn't have worked I'd have been looking at having to adapt maybe some Audi mirrors which I've got in the cupboard. So okay, so finally it's on, and it feels pretty secure. It's tighter than the other one is anyway. I need to tidy up all these little chips. When I took the rubber band off here, it brought all the paint off. I'm sure that Chips Away did that probably 20 years ago. I did have some touch up, but it's rock hard, so that's no good. I've ordered a new one and I'll do that later. So now all I need to do is put the interior back on, the door card, which you could say I didn't really need to take that off, but I didn't know that until I'd taken it off. Well, you live and learn. And now at least we've got a video of how to take the door card off. So if you'd enjoyed this as much as I have, i.e. not very much at all, please like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.